How you doing, people? It's Richie from People Supporting the People group on Facebook. Once again, I'm sat here with Murray and we're just trying to decide what to talk about. Now, recently we went to George Square in Glasgow and we took part in a gathering of people there at this ULEZ, or the LEZ restrictions that they're putting in place in Glasgow, that the council has decided to put in place in Glasgow. So we've decided to talk about that and just touch on it, about what ULEZ is, who's putting it through, what authority and jurisdiction the councils or any other authority have, or presumed authority have, and some of the feedback we're getting and meeting people and speaking to them about actually some of the fines they're getting, who these people just aren't paying them, so they fully comprehend what's happening here. So Murray, thanks for joining us again. ULEZ and the LEZ demonstration that the gathering that we went to last week. It was quite an enjoyable day. It was good to catch up with people. We've seen a lot of new faces there for just the normal people, so that tells me that there's a lot of people coming along to this who have got a vested interest in seeing that this doesn't go through. Another crush on with rights, inalienable inherent rights again, do you know what I mean? So
I think that tells you a story, Richie, alone, that when we sort of presented ourselves as people supporting the people at the beginning of the year, what we wanted to do was we wanted to raise awareness on what was coming next in this great reset of the WEF, Klaus Schwab and his gang. So me in particular, I wanted to talk about this ULEZ, and for anybody that doesn't know what it is, it's ultra low emission zones in about all the city centres around about the UK, and this is part of this great reset Agenda 21/30 Sustainable Development Programme, where part of the programme was about population control, truth of the matter, depopulation, and that's a fact, and also to herd us like chattel, human cattle, which is how the legal society see us, you know, and they want to herd us into these small urban areas. Richie gets off the land. Basically, Bill Gates is buying up all the land, all the farmers are getting...
They talk about 15-minute cities and things like that, don't they? So this is all part of the ULEZ as well. But ultimately what we've got, Murray, is we've basically got a government there who lead in the SNP, Labour Party, all these people. There's been leaders within the government been taken out, like Nicola Sturgeon.
Long time ago, Richie.
And then they're putting people in. But the important thing to remember is these people aren't elected. So these people are getting moved into positions, and then we're seeing things like this happen. We're seeing councils getting forced to charge people because their car is a 2014 or 2015 car. You can't drive it. Can't drive it through the city. Who said you can't drive it through the city centre?
But this is the bit where people need to pay attention to the law and their rights and how it all works.
Well, again, we've done a couple of videos. People will catch up and they'll see these things if they look back at other videos. So, firstly, what is ULEZ? Well, basically you're not allowed to bring your car into the city centre if it's, 2016 or something like that.
If it's got a high carbon emission.
And a high carbon emission as well. So, and you're not allowed to do that. That's for people who are perhaps disabled and they need their cars to get into the city centre. This is terrible. But notice that basically what they're doing, it's another form of tax, effectively. And what they're doing is taxing the people who can't afford new cars. So basically, they're taxing the poor and letting the people who are a bit better off.
Make it very inconvenient, Richard.
It's unfair.
But it's all part of this Sustainable Development Agenda 21/30, where there was a certain Mr. Wright spoke about this a long time ago, and everything the guy spoke about, they're ticking the box. You can see it developing, and it has been for the last so many 20 or 30 years. So part of the plan is to push people into financial difficulty, right? So you've got all the people in the middle, working class and the middle class I might add, whereby this whole thing about the cost of living crisis was part of this sustainable development programme. It was to push people into financial difficulty, where eventually it's going to be that you no longer can afford to be running your car, paying for your messages, paying for your bills.
Right.
And we've seen that with the whole carry on with the fuel prices, and the gas and the electricity, with heating your house in the winter
You
and
can
stuff
see
like
people are having to use food banks.
that. Absolutely.
And these
right.
aren't the people who are on benefits.
No.
Some of these people,
Ordinary working class people that
Working
are
class
really
families.
strong. And that's part of the agenda,
You know what I
which
mean?
is, I say, this whole thing is to push people into, as E1 said, when you know the outcome, you can see the journey.
that's right.
So basically what you're
Very
seeing,
true.
of course it is.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing now is, you're seeing more and more people struggling financially, and the whole idea is to take away people's financial securities
Yeah.
and push them into deprivation and poverty where they can no longer stand on their own 2 feet financially. Therefore, they're going to rely on the state
Yeah.
for food and shelter.
Yeah.
And see, once if they get to that stage, Richie, it's game, set and match,
Well,
because
They control the money, they
well,
control
if you
the
don't
food.
act according to their legislations,
Yeah.
so see this, I don't consent.
Yeah.
If you get to that stage in the Great Reset, it's game, set and match.
Yeah.
So we can't afford to let it get to that.
So, we understand what ULEZ is,
Yeah.
right? It's just another taxation system. It's corrupt. It's criminal.
Yeah.
It's a criminal taxation system forced upon us by governments who are unelected, people who are probably put in place,
Yeah.
and it's quite, what they're doing is evil.
Let me
But-
touch on that,
let-
Richard. Let me
Go
just
on.
touch on that. This is an age thing. I've got to strike.
what?
I've got to. I've got to strike while the iron's hot, or I forget. It's just
Go
unfortunate.
on.
You get to 53, you're touching. So anyway, so what you've got. I forgot what I was going to say there. No, seriously. So again, it's part of the game. This is part of their strategy, whereby when people are struggling to make ends meet, and you're then dependent on the state for food and shelter, that's them. They've got you right predicted
It's
a long
game, set and
time.
match.
Hunger
Aye.
Games Society.
Yeah.
It's what it was talked about.
Okay, mate. Huh?
You know what I mean?
Okay, so we know what ULEZ is. We know that it's a criminal government that's been put in place. See, if you ask me, I'll be honest with you, I think it's a coup d'etat. I think the government's been taken over. And it's easy to see that because it appears that government don't care about you. But who's pushing the authority? So obviously you've got the likes of Glasgow City Council, Edinburgh City Council, you've got different councils round about.
Yep.
East Renfrewshire Council, no doubt that's going to start because East Renfrewshire Council's getting a wee bit above its station. They forget that they work for the people. And there's councillors there, including, must I add, independent councillors who just go to these meetings about 15 and they're like nodding donkeys. It's embarrassing.
Let me explain to the viewers.
Independent councillors should be standing up for them. That's why they're independent. Do you know what I mean?
Let me explain to the viewers, Richie, how this whole trickery and the the illusion of democracy that people think they're living in, right? People have stopped voting a long time ago for the simple reason that it didn't matter who you were voting for, it never get any better for the people, right? So the people have gave up on the political parties, and I think we quoted this in one of the last talks or interviews or whatever you want to call it, podcasts. I think it was only something like 30% of the general public had voted, and they went by the majority of who voted. So there's 70% or 70% of the general public have stopped voting because they've lost faith in political parties and the system, and they've got every right to, because for the simple reason that when you've got a system here where people from all different political parties, right, their head honchos are all members of this World Economic Forum. Now, what is it, the NGOs they call them? Non-government organisations.
Yeah.
Now, when these guys go to these secret meetings with the likes of the REF, the WEF, these guys are schooled into a way of working and thinking where they no longer work for the governments, which they've sworn an oath to do. They swear to the people to work for governments. When they're working for now, recently, I think it was Stammer was asked the golden question, democracy or WEF or something along their lines, and he went like that right away. with
Right,
World
okay.
Economic Forum.
But we're getting a wee
Because
bit...
that's where the power is, he says.
We're getting a wee bit off topic here. I want to keep the videos short because
Right.
it'll be easier to kind of watch them. So
Yep.
let's get back to so the people who are enforcing these, or should I say the corporations who are enforcing.
Corporations. Aye.
So just to let the people know that these corporations, they don't have any authority or jurisdiction if you've removed consent.
And neither do the governments to
And-
manipulate. For these
and neither do the
corporations
governments.
to manipulate the governments. What people don't understand is the governments don't have the power
Yeah.
to enforce these either without
Why?
the consent of the people.
Because they work for the people.
Because they work for the people.
And they've got to be it's got to be consensual, and it's the exact same thing for these people who have been moved into these political positions.
Yep.
Like First Minister
Yep.
Yunza Yusuf, he's been put in that position. He
Yep.
wasn't elected
Unelected.
into that.
Same as Rishi Sunak.
Yep.
Unelected.
Unelected. And then look at the state of our country. As soon as they get in,
Yep.
the UK, it's just starting to fall apart. Scotland is starting to
Yes,
fall
and
apart.
that's a bit we must touch on, Richie, regarding like, if people are under the illusion that if they vote for Labour it's going to be better. I've just stated and I've just quoted Keir Starmer is a World Economic Forum man, and he's also a trilateral commission man,
Yeah.
which is just as every bit as bad as being a WEF man,
Yeah.
because
Oh,
their interests lie with self-gain, and it's where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
Well, we can see this is happening.
Absolutely.
So the governments, the corporations, they don't have any authority
No.
to be pushing these things. And a matter of fact,
Well,
what
they do
they're,
when
what,
people give them it high.
what they're actually doing, people, is they're using their money for the public purse
Yep.
to put these things up. So they're actually using your money to tax you because you can't afford a new car.
Yep.
That's it, the government. That's what you are consenting to. So that's very important that we know that.
Yep.
Now, a lot of people, when I was speaking to them on Saturday, we were talking about fines, and a lot of people says, "Aye, I've had a fine, I've had a fine."
Yeah.
How did you go on with it? No paying it.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I know why they're not paying it, but I've had to turn around and say to them, "Why are you not paying it?" Because I don't consent to it. This is people who don't really know much about common law are turning around and saying, because I don't consent, and they can take me to court if they like it. I don't consent. You know what I mean? So there really is a fight on there with this ULEZ.
But that's something I want to touch on as well, Richie, because there's a difference of opinion here regarding, now we met Sovereign Pete down at the meat mower at the Mark Sexton crew in the summer, and I watched Sovereign Pete on a podcast there the other night there, and he's saying that you need to be very careful with this one because we hold a driver's licence. Pete's saying that that's a form of consent to the rules and all the rest of it.
Yes.
But what you can contest is the fact that you weren't given full disclosure. When you consented to having a driving licence, they're going to be the presumptions, right? They're going to be the presumptions.
Yep.
But what Pete's saying, and he's right, I agree with what he's saying here, but you've already consented to that, so they're going, well, you've consented, you hold a driver's licence, therefore you've agreed to all the terms and conditions. But
We've never been given full disclosure, but people don't realise that.
That's the important aspect of what I'm going to say here. So therefore you need to rebut it. You need to you can then withdraw your consent because you weren't given full disclosure, and they're going by presumptions also.
Yep.
So that's something that's got, you can't just ignore it.
Yep.
You've got to bring it to their attention and rebut it so that it null and voids it. Because if you just ignore it, what's it called? Tacit agreement, silence is consent. And they presume your consent through holding a driver's licence where you are the registered keeper. And again, when you are the registrar of anything, you're consenting to their rules and regulations.
Well, when you're 17, you're all excited and we can all understand it. We've all been there. The first thing we want to do, we worked hard for a year after we left school or whatever. Well, you don't leave school, you're 18 now, but. And we left school when the first thing we wanted to do when we turned 17 was apply for a provisional licence and get,
driving.
And get driving and get a bit of freedom, because it's a great feeling. And when you apply for that, they don't tell you that if you apply for that they've got the right, the right to presume and assume that you're going to stand by their rules. So it's, it's fraudulent.
very misleading.
But they actually, it's
Tricky enough.
fraudulent ab initio,
Aye,
which means
that's
it's
right.
from the start,
Yes.
because you've never been given full disclosure.
Right
So,
from the beginning. Yep.
right for the start, you don't know anything about it, so it's just fraud, it's corruption,
Yep. But
it's
that's,
the same things happened with the vaccines. People weren't given full disclosure.
Yep.
I mean, my mother-in-law went in and she doesn't even know what vaccine she got.
but this is where people's got to
Without
have-
actually asking questions and saying, well, what you giving me, what's in it?
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
all this leave
But
it.
the problem with society, Rich, is, and the viewers will know this well and truly as well, that people are far too trusting.
But they trust the government. They trust the government
Yes.
who are unelected
Yep.
officials
Yep.
who have been put in these positions. They've been placed there.
Aye.
Very much that I'm not going to go there with the people who are coming into the country. I'm not going to go
No.
there. That's a different video.
It's a different thing when
But-
we're doing another road that you can spend a good.
I would say 99% of the people who are going to be sitting watching this video
We're
are probably
very
thinking,
aware of it.
actually, I wish you did go there.
Aye, but that's for another
But they
episode.
know exactly what I'm talking about.
Aye, of
They know
course.
exactly what I'm
Yes.
thinking. But
That's for another episode, Richie.
Aye.
There's a lot of detail in that as well. There's a lot of material
so
there.
that's the ULEZ. That's the kind of summing up on ULEZ.
Yeah.
Just bring bring this wee video to a close. The summing up of it is, it's something that's been put in place to benefit the government and these big corporations. It does not benefit the people. These government are meant to work for the people. They certainly don't work for the people because they're corporations, and being a corporation means that you're registered for nothing more to make profit.
Yeah.
And you can hide behind personal liability.
Yeah. There's going to be serious questions, Richie, whereby when people like Sunak and the useless are getting into power, but they weren't elected, there's something far, far wrong there when that's been allowed to happen.
Yeah.
And also, like I said earlier, when these guys have got the interest of the World Economic Forum and the NGOs, non-governmental organisations, that tells you that they've been manipulated for self-interest, where they're getting rewarded financially for doing what they're doing,
Of course, sir.
whereby that then becomes a conflict of interest, and that's breaking the ministerial codes.
Well,
So this is where people like us
Yes.
that have got the knowledge need to go on the front foot and put these guys on notices of intent and liability for breaking their ministerial codes, whereby they no longer serve the people of the nations that they represent. And that is that is serious stuff here we're talking about.
see if, let's talk about, for instance, in Glasgow, right? See if maybe 10,000, 20,000, 60,000 people to actually send a notice of intent to challenge the ULEZ to their local councillor or the CEO of Glasgow City Council, because there is a CEO there, because it is a corporation.
Yep.
See if 60,000 notices of intent landed in their desk. Trust me, they would sit up and take notice.
Worked the last
They
time
know,
in the UK,
they
right?
know that the people just can't be bothered because they're too busy working, living their own life,
Yep.
going to football. They're just know that there's anything wrong with that. Everybody loves entertainment, and if football's your thing or rugby's your thing, then you've got to go. You've got to go and watch because that's
It's
your thing.
everybody's bread and circus, as they call it,
Aye.
Richie. But the
But
point
that's
is,
the
I mean,
thing.
here
Keeps
is though.
you busy.
The point is, that we all love to live life, and bread and circus is a big part of life in the Western society.
Yep.
But the problem we've got is, see when there's crimes being committed against you, bread and circus is not important anymore. It's not important when they're murdering people, your mother and father and your gran and grandpa by government policy, and they're stopping people for travelling.
Yeah.
They're stopping people for travelling about city centres and stuff now.
Yep.
So this is where the distractions of football, beer and everything else has got to be forgotten about, and people need to start paying attention to what's going on and do something about it while it's still in our power to do something about it, because further down the park, if they continue the way they're going, Richie, because they're stripping away our rights and freedoms right in front of our very eyes, and we that have done the research and have got the knowledge, we understand how quickly our rights and freedoms are getting taken away from us. And if we can't get the majority of people waking up like your message in the new year about this is an information war, and that's exactly what it is. And if we don't raise enough awareness with the general public to realise what's going on and what's at stake further down the park, we're in serious trouble of the proper matrix here, where communist
It's going
rule,
to be too late.
you've got no rights or freedoms of choice, and you do what the government tell you, or else you're not getting food and shelter.
Yeah.
And that's how serious
I think
this
it's important
thing
to
is.
know here as well that when we do these videos, we're doing it as a conversation. It's just sitting having a cut. We're not trying to force our opinions on anybody. We want to record discussions that we're having, and hopefully the people will say, I'm going to have a look into that. So
Yes.
we're not actually wanting,
Forcing information
we're
down
not
people's
trying to
throats.
force information down your throat. What
I'm
we're trying to
giving
do here
people
is,
the benefit of their experience of research, because
Aye.
we're two guys that have been interested enough to spend, and it takes a long time, but you need to be interested. But when you understand the importance and information,
sometimes I wish I hadn't been doing these rabbit holes, but
Well-
sadly, and once you know it, you can't
get back to
you
the
can't
game.
unknow it.
And the thing
You
is,
can't go
Richie,
back to
it's
living the way
because
you
of
were.
people like us, right, and there's many of us now, and it's because of people like us that have spoke of this, and we risk ridicule. We did get ridiculed. So we've been dismissed, we were treated with aggression by our own family and friends, we're laughed at, we're ridiculed walking down the street, like David Icke says 30 years ago. But look what's came to the fore. There's people now stepping forward and saying, I apologise,
Yep.
you've been on the money with us the whole road.
Yeah.
But that's no consolation to me. What I would rather have, Richie, instead of people coming and conceding to me that I was right, I would like to welcome these people to come and join me in the fight. And I want to take this opportunity to raise the awareness of how important this is. I don't think people are grasping how important it actually is to get this information out there of how close we are to becoming a communist state ruled by a non-governmental organisation, which is the World Economic Forum, NGOs. They've not been voted in, but they're going to try and take the world by storm, whereby this is the down, and you can't ask any questions, you have no getting any rights or freedoms, this is what you're doing, and if you don't do it, you're not getting, and whatever it may be, food or shelter or whatever.
Yeah, we've got the central bank digital currency, and
It's part of it,
it's all going to be part of it, so they can control your money. But again, that's another discussion for another day. Back to you, Les, if I just want to finish up now and just summarise on what we're talking about with the ULEZ. So, again, councils are using people's money to steal more money off the people.
But here's the big thing as well, Richie, that it's important that people get this as well. Once again, it's legal plunder disguised as public health and safety, where they are getting people to think it's for their own safety, and it's for this CO2 thing, things are going out of hand. If we don't address it now, we're doomed. The scientists are all speaking. I think Dolores Cahill had a talk in Glasgow last night with Colin Buchanan, running about the Govan area.
Talking about ULEZ.
And they were talking about, all the things that are coming to society, and I think that was one of the, was that no the talk regarding
I missed
Dolores Cahill
I
was,
really wanted to go to that, but I missed it, so I was sorry I missed it. I did say to Colin I would try and get there. But other priorities, so we had to do that, so there'll be other opportunities. Anything else you want to finish up with? Buddy?
just as you say, about summarising regarding the importance of paying attention, whereby there's scientists and people speaking out all the time rubbishing this whole climate alarmist claim. People need to realise that this is, again, it's based in fear, where they're playing on people's fear, creating a low vibration, and when people are going about scared, they're good slaves and they do what they're told. Where when you go and seek information for yourself and find out what the truth of the matter, then you can begin to realise, wait a wee minute here, and then all of a sudden you realise about other things that you were told before regarding the COVID and everything else. They've not been quite telling the truth, and you can see right through where once again it's like I said earlier, it's legal plunder disguised as public health and safety, where they're using the fear tactic to scare you into doing what they want you to do. But what people don't realise is it's what's lying behind. What is the agenda? What is it they're trying to achieve out of scaring people into doing what they're told? Because when you live in a democracy, and I admit we're living in the illusion of democracy, but when you're living in a democracy, there's a process that you must get through in order for anything to get through.
And that process,
and that process isn't happening. And that's why I say it's an illusion of a democracy we're living in, not an actual democracy.
Well, if it was democracy, with the likes of Klaus Schwab and all the rest of them, and all your things are useless, would they all be jumping in planes and going to all these Davos and all the rest of it?
Well, there's the thing,
because they're all going in private jets.
Absolutely.
Private jets.
So they're
that use a lot of fuel.
So they're setting by example, eh?
Oh, aye, of course they are.
So
They're leading the
lead by
way.
example.
Oh,
So therefore, if
aye.
it was that much, if we're in that much danger, why are they still eating these lavish meals and all the things that you're not supposed to be eating?
Aye.
And travelling in private jets, what are the emissions that they're creating?
And we've
Tons and tons.
We've to eat bugs.
And we've to eat bugs and own nothing and be happy.
I know.
So it is about high time, Richie, that people started to show a bit of interest before it's too late, and start paying attention, and come and join us, and come and speak to us, and
Definitely.
educate yourself on the actual truth of what's actually going on out
If
there.
anybody ever sees us in the street, then, like I've said in past videos, come and speak to us. We would love to hear from you.
Grab a light newspaper as well. There's a lot of the guys are handing out light newspapers. We were doing it for a while ourselves before we get busy with our personal lives and business and stuff like that. But it's a smashing publication that's more than telling the truth about what's actually going on with everything pertaining to this reset or this sustainable development programme that the World Economic Forum are pushing through manipulated governance. So I think we've kind of covered the ultra low emission zones and what lies behind it and what the kind of end game is here.
Just the fact is, just don't give them your money.
Can you imagine living a life like that, Richie, where the one you heard it into 15 minutes, 20 minute cities, where everything that you require in your life is within a 15-minute radius? So therefore, the youngins in the future get up on a lovely sunny Sunday morning. Let's go around to Loch Lomond and then we'll go for a fish or a steak in at the Duck Bay.
It's going to cost you.
That's well,
if you
you're
can,
not going to.
If you can get there, it's going to cost you.
Well, the commies at the helm are going to be saying,
no,
you're not going.
While they fly about in their jet planes.
While they're
You know what I mean?
living life to the full. So this whole thing, it's for the masses. It's no for the alleged, these
1%.
people, the 1%ers, the George Soroses, the Bill Gates, and these people. These rules aren't for them. This is just for the common people, and this is where people need to start paying attention.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, people. Certainly in the comments, put some comments there. Tell us what you think about the video. Tell us what you think about what we're talking about. And it'll be interesting seeing your interactions. Look forward to it.
Yeah. And like Richie says, we're going to be doing a series of different topics regarding quite a lot of the things that are part of this great reset, this sustainable development agenda 21/30. There's quite a lot to it. I mean, I think a lot of people were under the illusion that the COVID-19 was the whole thing, and it was only probably the first phase of this whole agenda thing. You know, so there's an awful lot of things that we're going to cover here, which is all part and parcel of this. The WEF Great Reset. So we've got a bit to discuss, but we're going to do it. We're going to work our way through the different topics.
Aye, hope you'll join us. So thanks very much.
Yep. Cheers, man.
Take care, folks.